roads of Lagodi, Indiana, lives one of the area's finest home builders.
I'll make these 7 1/4.
Bill Larkin's work, though,
I have been known to be called Crazy Bill.
for the birds, literally.
Who would do this? That guy has to be nuts to do something like this.
Crazy Bill
People just love these dinosaurs.
At first, my daughter wanted to commit me.
started constructing, painting,
And I'm Mr. Sloppy, and I don't care.
and assembling
Yeah, it's going to work.
back in 2012.
I didn't even think I could build a birdhouse, to be honest with you.
Turns out, it's pretty good.
It took about 4,000 to get fairly decent at it.
That's about how many birdhouses he has on display today in the front yard, side yard, backyard, and across the street.
There's a ton of birds here in the summertime.
Oh, and there's 2,000 more inside his home.
I didn't have any intention of doing this many.
So why did he?
I don't know, it was colorful.
That's just Larkin squawking. Art is fun for him, but he's not focused on the details. The real reason for this vibrant collection?
I enjoy it when people come here and laugh.
He loves to be happy. And he loves to see others happy. It explains why he doesn't charge visitors who leave with a souvenir.
People were wanting them, they wanted to buy them. I says, I don't want to sell them.
This is a place for people to spread their wings and have fun. A colorful experience you can only describe as a visit to Crazy Bill's. Crime and what it does to people is palpable at the Park Hill Housing Project. Across the street from spray-painted and boarded-up buildings and inside Unit 31 is where Braxton Carter learned about life.
That's where I really found out who I was then.
The space, too small for a family of 6, Dad wasn't around. Fending for himself was the only option. And sometimes here, that means entering the world of drugs.
You're a product of your environment, and that's what I saw. I seen, the drug dealers out there. They had nice cars, jewelry, money. I wanted that. I've never had nothing.
What started as dealing spiraled out of control.
I wasn't gonna get caught by the police. I wasn't gonna go to prison. I was gonna sell drugs my whole life, get rich, give me a big house, like they have in the movies and like you see in the music videos. That's what I saw.
The lyrics of Tupac, Biggie, and Lil Wayne fueled Carter's vision.
Thug life and, gangs and violence and getting his money.
He soon became a major player in Louisville cocaine sales. Veteran traffickers were family.
I looked at the drug dealers as father figures.
Police also became quite familiar with Carter, which ultimately ended with him behind bars. Years of his life spent at Kentucky State Reformatory in the Grange and other prisons.
I still got buddies in there right now who I think about.
His time on the inside was sobering in more ways than one.
Mainly my kids that really motivated me to look for something. I needed some type of outlet.
When he got out, he found it at the gym. With gloves.
Bring your foot around as you punch.
And a coach he met that was on the verge of changing his life.
Mr. Dixon walked up to me and said, hey, would you like to get some sparring in?
Braxton had never been in a ring before, but he was scrappy and knew how to handle himself in a fight.
He was like, I want you to start training with me. And that was, the first day to a new beginning for me.
The discipline of boxing was exactly what he needed, and it just so happens Carter wasn't alone.
How do you feel?
James Dixon had taken in several troubled teens.
A lot of them more or less wanted a father figure, more so than boxing. Try to hook off your jab.
But they were getting both. What started as sparring in Dixon's garage recently turned into Louisville TKO, a boxing gym on Breckenridge downtown. The best of those who train here travel to take on other fighters in the region. But learning the proper way to throw a left hook or right jab
Work your jab, son.
is only part of it.
To become a good boxer, you have to show up every day. It's a commitment, it's a lifestyle.
Patience, confidence,
I've never felt that feeling of having someone believe in me and encourage me.
and adversity are what it's really about.
You get knocked down in life. You're gonna get knocked down in boxing if you do it long enough. It's how you get up and you learn a bigger lesson from getting up.
Some of the exact lessons a young Cassius Clay learned not too far from here to reach the top of the boxing industry.
Where you see most of the drugs and violence he came from.
Carter, a big Muhammad Ali fan, picked up a nickname of his own, Red. His new skills in the gym made him a beast.
Come on, come on.
Rivals think twice before getting into the ring with him, and it's easy to see why. While a return to the old Braxton Carter is always in the back of his mind,
I'm worried I can get caught back up in the streets.
the future for Red is too colorful to move anywhere but forward. His eyes now set on going pro.
And now he's a role model to other kids.
Living a life he never knew could exist.
Shows me like how far I've come.
Realizing a dream he didn't know he had.
I look at the man I am now, it's like I don't even recognize the guy back then.
Talk about a knockout. In Louisville, Chris Sutter, WDRB News. There's been a noticeable absence along I-64 in this Franklin County park.
I got calls from all kinds of people worried about the flags.
1,800 square feet of America that almost seemed to vanish.
The community seems to be really proud of it. May these flags forever wave.
The park's owner, C. Michael Davenport, tells us he put the flag here originally to honor veterans. High winter winds had other plans, snapping cables, forcing Old Glory to come down. That is until this guy showed up.
You can't get just anybody to go out and climb a 150-foot flagpole.
Robert Ray will.
And this is what he does for a living. He goes around the country and climbs flagpoles.
Oh, she's a beast.
In a matter of minutes, he assesses what needs to be done and is in a cherry picker headed for the sky.
It's like work, too, man, when they're this big.
Only part of the trip to the top will happen in this bucket.
See, a little while. It'll be a little while.
Ray goes at the rest of it alone.
I'm one of the bravest guys out, man.
These big poles are, good on the shoulders.
Rope and some serious effort take him to the highest point.
It gets easier every section. The smaller it gets, the easier it is. I'll take some breaks, and I tell them every time, I'm like, man, it's not, it's kind of boring to watch,
The crowd forms below, taking pictures and watching the show.
Sign some autographs or something.
After about 60 minutes, proper fixes are made. Ray is on the way down.
All right, man.
Ready?
Yeah. More than you know.
A sigh of relief is part of this process. Then it's on to some wire work and cranking before heading back up in the cherry picker and making the red, white, and blue fly high here once again.
You just think of the people that have served and fought and died.
Just in time for Memorial Day.
And our veterans, I hope they're so proud.
In Frankfort, Chris Sutter, WDRB News. New Albany is a growing progressive city where people live in unity day in and day out. But not all that long ago, racial tension ruled main streets and what's now City Square.
Leading up to the Civil War, there were several race riots here. The worst one was in the summer of 1862.
White versus black, deaths weren't uncommon.
Many of the slaves were coming across the river to freedom here in Indiana.
The city was split. Pro-slavery sentiment bled over the Ohio from the south.
There were people who made a living on capturing slaves who were running away.
There were also people and organizations on the sunny side of the river that took a strong anti-slavery stand.
It was dangerous for them, yes, to be out front with their help.
One of those places that didn't back down is what's now known as Town Clock Church.
This church is literally the gateway to the Underground Railroad in the metro area.
To realize that there were people that were willing to risk their lives in order to help slaves move to freedom, that is huge.
Many freed African Americans found the refuge they so desperately were seeking. Some hid in the sanctuary. Town Clock's pastor says he believes tunnels underneath his church were also used.
We believe that slaves hid when someone came into the church looking for slaves.
One passage in particular, says Pastor Marshall, allowed slaves to get to a hospital for treatment.
This is the tunnel that actually goes under Main Street
Today, work continues to restore this historic building. Stained glass windows are being repaired or recreated. Sanctuaries are back to being church-ready. And the bells are chiming loud. Thanks in part to a group called Friends of Town Clock Church.
We want it to be maintained, and we want the history to persevere through years to come.
It's that important to them, because while the days of slavery, bloodshed, and the Underground Railroad were tumultuous and ugly, they're also a part of history that can't and won't ever be forgotten.
The Underground Railroad lies within the hearts and the minds of the people.